Hey everybody, I'm Chad Dunn from the VSPEX organization. I'm here with another Chad, not from the VSPEX organization, Chad Sackich. So welcome.
It's Chad squared.
Exactly. I feel a little awkward. I feel like we should have someone in between us to sort of break
Chad
up
Engel?
the monotony. No, not another Chad. We've got too many Chads. So today we want to talk about VSPEX Blue.
I want to talk about VSPEX
Perfect.
Blue.
I want to get the pre-sales perspective on it. I want to understand where this fits in the portfolio, right? We've got VSPEX reference architectures. We've got vBlocks for converged infrastructure. Why do we need another platform? Where does it fit?
To me, it's really simple. VSPEX doing great in the marketplace. Customers love it when what they want is the ability to, in essence, do almost anything.
Yeah.
Right? Any combination of this plus that plus Y plus A plus B plus C
is going to work.
It's going to work. It's going to have a channel go to market. Okay, fantastic.
Yep.
And our partners can integrate, a broad set of how this stuff works.
Sure.
It makes things easier to go to market. It doesn't radically change the time to value for our customers. Radically, it improves it. vBlock, wild success.
Sure.
Growing like stink.
Clear market leader.
Customers love it, except for in certain segments. Mm-hmm. We never fully succeeded with the idea of a product, like a simple turnkey thing that was small. Right? We learned through the time, literally we'd have lots of customers turn to us and say, I love my vBlocks, but I'd like one for a small, please.
I'd like one I can take with me.
I'd like one I can take with me. I've got a small data center. I've got a robo scenario where it could fit. And literally VSPEX Blue is going to light the market on fire in that category. And frankly, it'll also cover certain use cases also where, vBlock might have been able to go.
Yeah.
Like at the bottom end of kind of the vBlock 300 series. Yeah. But for customers that want to eventually get there, they don't need it day one, right? Day one, they want to start with 100 VMs or 200 VMs, but they want to have an architecture that they can scale up and get to 1,000.
As they grow, add capacity, almost on demand. Okay. What about the workloads, right? What workload should customers consider in the context of VSPEX Blue?
So a great question. And, for these things, there's not always necessarily a black and white, like the workload A for this one, if that. You can't build it into a discrete flow chart like that, but that's why we have great SEs and great partners all around the world.
Is that a plug?
That is a plug for them, not for me. So basically, VSPEX Blue will be able to support a broad set of virtualized workloads. Mm-hmm. In other words, you can't say, it can't do SQL or it can't do Oracle or that it doesn't do VDI or it does do VDI. It does anything you would put on a 4-node vSphere cluster or a 16-node vSphere cluster and so on and so forth.
Okay.
The one thing that is a defining requirement is that basically it needs to be a workload that is virtualized and runs on VMware because VSPEX Blue is always going to be running VMs.
Right.
Again, for many customers, that's like no problem.
Exactly.
And then there are some use cases where the data services of VSPEX Blue wouldn't support it. So if you've got a workload that requires SRDF, that's not a fit for a VSPEX Blue, right? But interestingly enough, and I'm really pumped about this. I mean, the fact that we're going to be including Recover Point for VMs as an option in the marketplace means that customers can deploy it even for applications with relatively rich local and remote protection capabilities.
Great. So what kinds of customers should be looking at this, right? It's very good general purpose box, but what kinds of customers should consider it?
I look at it this way. There's two sets of segments which are clearly the places where it will resonate the most strongly. SME, not SMB, really, but medium-sized enterprises that want simplicity, turnkey, super fast outcomes, but are willing to trade off some of the flexibility that they'd get in an engineered system like a vBlock.
Okay.
Right? An engineered system like a vBlock, it could be really big, it could be really small. I could scale this way or that way. Maybe it's mostly VMware and maybe it's physical. But you know what? For a huge swath of the SME market, they go, okay, so every workload needs to be a VM. It's simple, it's easy, it's turnkey. I'm in.
Sure.
Right? There's another segment, which is the robo segment, right? And, I would say that in the robo market, people want something that's simple because you do not have IT expertise in 200, 300 stores,
Yeah.
retail locations, bank outlets, or we've seen interesting ones. I mean, you and I together, like oil rigs, right? And in those cases, the simplicity that VSPEX Blue does, which is, there's nothing like the simplicity of VSPEX Blue in the marketplace. That's going to resonate very, very strongly.
Okay. One of the questions that comes up on a lot of calls that I'm on is people believe that because it's so turnkey, that it's so easy, that they're going to miss some of the functionality that they get with vSphere as well as vCenter, right? So can I really integrate this into my vRealize management orchestration infrastructure? Obviously, that's not true.
Short answer is anything you could do with a VMware cluster, you can do with VSPEX Blue. You can actually leave the VSPEX Blue management console if you want, and open up and go right to vCenter. Right? Plugins that have developed, things that you've used, orchestration and workflows in the vRealize suite, go to town. I do think what's going to be interesting is that there's going to be a lot of customers who are going to look at the VSPEX Blue management interface and just go, yeah, this is good enough for me. I mean, I like the fact that my tools and scripts and I could go to vCenter, but man, if it's that easy to use, do I need anything more?
I'm happy if you're going to use our tools. Absolutely. So we can expand it from a management perspective, but there's another aspect to it, and you just touched on it when you talked about Recovery Point for VM. That's not the only value-added software that's included as well. We've got Cloud Array, so you can now burst capacity out into a public cloud if you choose to.
I'm so excited to finally be able to talk about this, dude. So it's interesting. VSPEX Blue is the best, period, full stop, end of story, Evo Rail appliance on the marketplace. People have looked at this and said, are these all going to be the same? And, Evo Rail, is Evo Rail a product? It's not a product. It's a program, right? What's been interesting to me is to see how OEMs and partners have selected to either add, in my view, and it's a Chad pre-sales manifesto principle to never go negative, to either add no value. So some of the early launch partners basically said,
off the shelf.
Here you go. And I'm kind of like, so if there's a fault, who's going to know about it?
Exactly.
Right? And then we saw other partners kind of do just, at least in my mind, I mean, who knows? The market will choose, do strange things like bolting an array, to where it doesn't make sense to me.
Seems a little counterintuitive.
It seems a little counterintuitive.
I thought we were moving away from that.
We're trying to make this a hyper-converged thing and small footprint and conversely, the way that we've gone at it, I think, is really, really cool. By integrating it with ESRS, it means, hey, that's valuable for a customer that maybe is not an EMC customer at all, but wants their VSPEX Blue thing to call home when there's a problem.
Absolutely.
Right? They can interact with chat and EMC support directly inside the UI.
Wait, they can interact with Chad?
They can interact with chat. It's,
Either way.
Either way. You can always post a question to me on Virtual Geek if you want, or on Twitter. That's one. But for customers that also are actually buying VSPEX Blue as part of their smaller data center footprint or their robo sites, the fact that they can go to support.emc.com and basically, have integration with the rest of the EMC support ecosystem, huge. One. Two, if you just have, 100 VMs, a single, VSPEX Blue appliance, and the number of VMs, of course, customers' mileage may vary. They have small
all VMs. Are different. Right?
All VMs are different, right? You might get away with using the native vSphere replication and be happy as a clam. Okay, fantastic. But we looked at it and said, okay, well, customers are going to use this at small scales for mission-critical workloads. And as they scale up to 1,000, they're going to need to have local and remote protection options that are rich and can support a broad swath of their ecosystem, right? But we didn't do it by somehow Frankensteining hardware into this thing. The fact that we took and built Recover Point for VMs, integrated in, which was non-trivial. There were things that we learned and things we needed to build. The fact that we took VDPA and allows them to take their backups and put them off to DD nicely if they're a DD customer, huge value add. If for channel partners that are watching, look, you just basically broadened out your value proposition.
Absolutely.
Awesome, right? And for the customer, most importantly, they now can move forward with more confidence for more workloads. So 2 was Recover Point for VMs, second VDPA and DD integration. And then the third, this fourth one that I think is just really, really cool is One thing in the program of this thing as a whole, and true of VSPEX Blue also, is, you know, some customers are going to be storage capacity constrained. Right? Because the ratio of compute and storage is kind of fixed in appliance models.
Every time.
That's true with ours. It's true of other hyper-converged appliances on the marketplace. However, with ours, it's not limited. The fact that we put the cloud array in there means that they can use vCloud Air Object, or they can use S3 object stores, they can use object stores of all types to add additional block and NAS capacity, not in a Franken-bolted thing, right there. Right. And the way you guys built this, by making the VSPEX Blue Manager UI part of the whole UI, means you'd never break the appliance experience. There's no one else that does those four things. There's no one else who does it without breaking the appliance experience.
Right.
That is freaking cool.
Awesome. Hey, thanks for your time. We really appreciate your perspective on this.
Chad, it's my pleasure. I'm so pumped. I'm so pumped. This is awesome.